The field is watching. Right now. While you read, think, breathe. Not like a distant mirror, but like an invisible skin that reacts to your every impulse, thoughts, emotions, subtle gestures. Everything you emit returns, amplified. And it is at this point that most people get lost, believing they are standing still, when in fact they are vibrating out of sync. There is a silent boundary that separates effort from consistency, and almost no one crosses it. Have you ever felt like the whole day is made up of repetitions, like nothing really moves, even when you're trying to change everything? That's the frequency watching you, waiting for you to remember that it never stopped responding. But when the body vibrates in noise, the universe responds with distorted echoes. Imagine yourself in a room where every thought is a note. Most people play out of tune, in a hurry, afraid, and uncertain. And the result is a symphony that the speaker themselves cannot hear. That's why so many feel tired even when not rushing, empty even when surrounded by stimuli, anxious even in silence. The energy isn't lost, it gets jumbled. But there is a tipping point. An almost imperceptible instant when the field changes direction. That's when you stop trying to push reality and start adjusting to your own pace. Air flows in, the heart slows, and something invisible, yet palpable, realigns. The internal clock resumes marking the time of the universe, and reality finally responds. What would happen if, in just 24 hours, you tuned your energy to the point where the entire field reorganized itself around you? Not like magic, but like a natural, inevitable adjustment. With each breath, you emit a frequency that defines what attracts, what repels, and what remains. And what you feel right now, fear, clarity, peace, or chaos, is the code being transmitted at this very moment. Perhaps the real mystery is not how to raise your frequency, but how to sustain the memory that you are already the field you observe. The shift begins now. Change will not come from the outside. It begins the moment you decide to stop running and finally listen to the sound of your own energy. You feel the field responding, even without understanding how. There's a subtle vibration in the air, as if something, both outside and inside you, were observing every thought, every pause, every breath. And yet, the mind tries to control what wasn't meant to be controlled. It wants to predict, calculate, force the rhythm. But the field doesn't obey orders. It mirrors states. That's why, when you think about changing your life but keep breathing as if you're running away, reality remains still. Because the universe doesn't listen to words. It listens to frequencies. And the body speaks this language before any thought. It's a silent conversation between the heart and the energy field, and it happens all the time, whether you realize it or not. Think about the last 24 hours of your life. How many times did you consciously breathe, aware of what you were feeling? How many times did you notice what your body was telling you, while your mind was firing off thoughts in all directions? That's where the field gets confused. It receives multiple signals and, without a clear pattern, returns mixed echoes, coincidences that seem random, emotions that arise without warning, decisions that escape logic. The truth is that each of us is constantly transmitting. Every emotion is a frequency. Every memory, a fragment of code. And that's why some days seem heavy, even in silence. There's noise in the air. Other times, the world seems to conspire in our favor, and everything flows with an almost frightening naturalness. There's coherence. The difference lies in the state, not in the effort. When body and mind come into harmony, something changes in the texture of time. The hours seem slower, yet fuller. The little things, the touch of light on the skin, the distant sound of the wind, the pulse in the chest, begin to have presence. It's as if the universe begins to truly listen to you, after a long time of noise. It is at this moment that many people choose to remain here, accompanying each revelation, because they feel something awakening, not outside, but within. And if you stay a little longer, you'll realize, the field isn't asking for faith or strength. It's asking for attention. A different kind of presence, one that doesn't need to prove anything, only sustain its own rhythm. The turning point begins when silence ceases to be absence, and becomes the first sign of harmony. But it is at this point that the conflict begins to truly hurt. Because the more you try to sustain the new frequency, the more the old world begins to react. Situations return, people reappear, patterns that seemed dissolved resurface like echoes of a time that refuses to die. And all this happens not to punish you, but to test the stability of your field. It's as if the universe wants to know, do you really vibrate differently or do you just want to appear different? The first signs are subtle: a conversation that irritates you for no reason, an unexpected delay, a memory that surfaces in the silence. The field provokes. It pushes what was hidden so that it can be seen in a new light. And, if you observe carefully, you will notice the contrast. The old stirs as the new begins to emerge. There's a kind of unease that accompanies each leap in consciousness. A void between who you were and who you're becoming. In that interval, the body wants to return to the old frequency because it's familiar. Fear tries to translate the unknown as danger. The mind races, invents urgencies, tries to fill the silence that the field has opened up. And that's exactly where almost everyone gives up. But what seems like chaos is actually a realignment. The field reorganizes everything that doesn't resonate with the new vibration. People drift away, opportunities dissolve, habits prove unsustainable. Life seems to collapse when, in reality, it's cleansing itself. The noise gets louder before it fades away, and that's the sign that harmony is about to be established. Imagine a radio trying to tune into a distant station. First, the static increases. Then, a note appears. Then another, and suddenly, there is music. That is the sound of transition, uncomfortable, necessary, inevitable. The old energy needs to be heard before it is released. And, if you have the courage to remain in that static, something inside you begins to hear a pattern that was previously hidden. With each breath, the body adapts to the new harmony. The heart slows down, but beats stronger. The mind hesitates, but begins to surrender. Presence grows like a flame in slow motion, illuminating memories, choices, intentions. It is the moment when the old frequency tries to fade, and the new tone begins to emerge, still fragile, but true. And when that tone stabilizes, the entire field changes color, but almost no one gets to see that moment. Because it demands a silent surrender, a total commitment. And perhaps that is precisely the point where true transformation begins to breathe. And then something unexpected happens. When you stop fighting the noise, it begins to transform into rhythm. What once seemed like chaos takes on its own cadence, almost beautiful, as if there were an intelligence behind each disorder. The discomfort that once weighed you down becomes a kind of silent lesson. And, for the first time, what was resistance begins to sound like an invitation. It is at this moment that you realize, the field never wanted to test you, it wanted to teach you to listen. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And the more you try to control the sound, the more you lose the melody. But when you simply listen, without demanding anything, the sound organizes itself, like the sea calming down after a wave breaks. Imagine the air entering your lungs now. A tea comes from distant trees, seas, ancient breaths. It carries memories of those who lived before and vibrations of those yet to come. Each molecule is a message that the field sends, and you respond without saying a word. It is in this invisible dialogue that your frequency rises, not through effort, but through remembrance. Many call this an awakening, but perhaps it's just a return. A return to what has always been there, only muffled by the noise of attempts. The mind seeks results, the heart seeks rhythm. And when both align, reality changes tone, even without changing form. Life continues the same, but everything in it seems different. There is something sacred in the simplicity of this process. With each breath, you stop reacting and begin to participate. And the more you participate, the more you feel the world responding in kind. It's a gentle echo, a silent confirmation that something within you has touched the center of the field. It is at this point that many feel the impulse to support this journey, leaving a silent sign that the message has touched them, like someone marking a sacred memory in the air. But the deepest truth is yet to come. Because this state is not static, it is not a destination, it is a living pulse, a heartbeat that renews itself every instant. There are layers of frequency that have not yet been touched, territories of consciousness that only reveal themselves when silence becomes complete. And it is there that the field begins to lead you, slowly, like someone holding the hand of someone about to cross the veil of the visible. But this is where the paradox reveals itself. The higher your frequency rises, the more you perceive the weight of the old layers that still live within you. Stored emotions, recurring thoughts, small pains that insist on returning as if asking to be heard one last time. The elevation doesn't erase what has been forgotten, it illuminates. And the light, when it arrives, reveals both beauty and dust. You begin to notice that each memory has its own vibration. Some shine, others drain. There are memories that seem to pulsate with gratitude, and others that carry the echo of an ancestral fear. None of this is a mistake. It's just the field revealing the dissonant notes that need to be tuned before the music can continue. Sometimes, this revelation hurts. It's as if the silence that once brought peace now becomes a mirror, and in it you see everything you haven't wanted to face yet. The truths you avoided, the emotions you masked, the words you swallowed. Everything presents itself, one by one, not to hurt you, but to be restored to harmony. Because there is no high frequency without honesty with what vibrates within you. And it is in this confrontation that transformation becomes real. You feel the fear trying to hold onto the edges of the old, but there is a subtle courage growing beneath it. A calm flame that doesn't burn, it purifies. It doesn't need certainties, only surrender. And when you allow what no longer serves you to burn away, something new begins to form from the ashes. Imagine yourself standing before a bonfire, the warm air touching your face. The flames dance, and, for a moment, everything that was heavy transforms into warmth. Dense emotions rise in the form of smoke, ascending in slow spirals, disappearing into the darkness. It's the same thing that happens inside you when you accept feeling without running away. The field understands, responds, reorganizes. There is a moment, almost imperceptible, when the heart and silence breathe together. And in that space, fear dissolves. It is not defeated, it merely loses importance. Life expands, and time seems to pause, as if the universe were observing its new state and awaiting the next step. But there's something the field hasn't yet revealed. A secret that only shows itself when you're ready to listen to the sound behind the sound. And perhaps that's the point where everything starts to change, not by miracle, but by attunement. It is at this point that reality begins to respond in ways that defy all logic. Small events align as if obeying an invisible rhythm. People you haven't seen in years appear at the exact moment a thought about them crosses your mind. Doors open, signs repeat themselves, coincidences cease to seem like chance. But along with this synchronicity comes something more subtle, the feeling of being watched, not by someone, but by something. It's as if the field itself is studying you, testing the purity of your intention. It returns everything you emit, without judgment, only with precision. And then, each thought becomes a gesture, each emotion, a seed. Life transforms into a quantum mirror that reflects not what you say you want, but what truly vibrates within you. There are days when this brings ecstasy. You feel the power of creation pulsing in every cell. You realize that your energy truly shapes the world. But there are others when the reflection is uncomfortable, when the mirror shows impatience, fear, lack. The same power that builds also exposes. And this duality is the price of consciousness. Imagine walking down a corridor of infinite mirrors, each reflecting an aspect of who you are, who you were, who you still fear to be. Some shine with colors you can barely describe, others reveal shadows you thought you'd left behind. The quantum journey is this silent crossing, facing the reflection without getting lost in it. Hope is born from the realization that every shadow is also a passage. That every pain contains a code for expansion, every fall an instruction for alignment. Fear tries to close the path, but curiosity opens cracks in the darkness. It is through these cracks that the light enters, not as an answer, but as a reminder that it was always there. You begin to understand that raising your frequency isn't about escaping density, but embracing it until it transforms. That darkness isn't the enemy of light, it's the space where light learns to be born. The field observes, patiently waiting for the moment when you stop fighting and simply feel. And when that happens, the air changes. Perception expands. Everything seems to breathe with you, the ground, time, the silence itself. A point of calm settles in the midst of the tension, like the eye of a hurricane. And at that point, where everything moves and nothing hurries, something sacred approaches. A premonition, almost a promise. The harbinger that true change has not yet begun, but is already on its way. Over time, you begin to notice that the field responds faster. Coincidences become almost immediate, signals clearer. An idea conceived in the morning returns as an opportunity at night. A repressed emotion echoes as an unexpected event the next day. It's as if reality tests your coherence, measuring the distance between what you feel and what you emit. Every action begins to have an almost instantaneous return, not as punishment or reward, but as fine-tuning. Life, then, reveals itself as a vibrational laboratory. Everything you do, every word, every gesture, every thought, is an experiment. And the result is never random. When the frequency is clean, the field flows in synchronicity. When it is distorted, reality becomes dense, delayed, almost opaque. Nothing disappears, nothing is lost, everything returns, like waves crashing against invisible rocks. Sometimes, this reflection is generous. The right people cross your path, projects flourish lightly, ideas sprout as if the universe were whispering directions in your ear. Other times, the field returns silence. Doors that seemed open close without explanation, messages go unanswered, time seems to stand still. But even this is a sign. The field is not punishing you, it is calibrating you. It removes the excess, forces withdrawal, makes the sound cease so that you can hear your inner rhythm again. You realize there's a pattern. When you act with intention, but without anxiety, things move. When you force things, everything stalls. When you observe, everything organizes itself. The duality repeats itself like a mantra. Action and reaction, emission and return, force and flow. It's the subtle game of creation. And within this game, a new awareness emerges. You are never just a player. You are also the board, the field, and the very energy that moves you. What you call the result is merely a reflection of your inner state at a specific moment. If the state changes, the reflection changes along with it. And perhaps that's why so many people, upon realizing this, feel the urge to record the instant they understood, like leaving a mark, a small sign that something within them has awakened. But the field still has more to show. Because every connection requires maintenance. The frequency doesn't rise and remain. It pulsates, oscillates, renews itself. The secret isn't reaching the top, but learning to dance with the oscillation without losing your center. And it's in this balance between movement and pause that true power begins to reveal itself, silent, constant, waiting only for you to be willing to listen to it again. But when the field begins to respond more intensely, something curious happens. The boundaries between inside and outside begin to dissolve. The line that separated thought from reality becomes tenuous, almost imperceptible. You think of someone and feel the phone vibrate. An intimate decision, made in silence, seems to redraw the events of an entire day. It is at this point that the mind tries to regain control. It wants to understand, label, measure. But the field does not explain itself, it only reflects. And this is where the real challenge begins. Because along with the power of creation comes the responsibility for the vibration that sustains everything. It's not enough to desire strongly, it's necessary to sustain the state that gives form to the desire. And this is the point where many give up, when they realize that raising the frequency is not an isolated feat, but a daily commitment to coherence between feeling, thinking, and acting. Imagine waking up and realizing that every gesture carries an energetic echo. The way you get up, the first word you speak, the way you touch the ground, everything emits a signal. And the universe, like a silent lake, responds to the slightest ripples. This awareness changes everything. It makes it impossible to live on autopilot. It's like walking on thin glass. Each step is a vow of attention. But there is beauty in that too. Because, at the same time that conscience weighs heavily, it liberates. When you realize that everything is alive and responds, the world ceases to be a backdrop and becomes a partner. The rain doesn't fall by chance. It responds to a need you may not have perceived. The delay, the missed connection, the silence, all are messages that reposition you in the rhythm of creation. There are moments when clarity arrives like a breath of fresh air. You understand, without words, that the field doesn't want you to fight to control reality, but to align yourself with the flow that is already in motion. That the frequency is sustained not by force, but by lucid surrender. And suddenly, you realize that the coincidences that once surprised you now seem natural. What was a miracle becomes invisible logic. Still, there is uncertainty. The field doesn't reveal everything at once. It tests your confidence, offers silence when you seek answers, curves the path when you expect a straight line. But there is wisdom in that too. Because it is in that space between doubt and faith that the frequency solidifies. It is the interval where the sound is born, the breath before the note, and the entire universe seems to hold its breath with you, awaiting the moment when you choose to remain present, even without understanding everything. And then comes the silence that is not the absence of sound, but the space where everything listens. It is there that you begin to realize that the field does not respond to words, but to the state behind them. The vibration does not arise from what is said, but from what is felt when no one is watching. The mind tries to rationalize, seeks patterns, tries to understand how this happens, but the mystery lies precisely in the fact that it cannot be measured. It's like trying to capture the wind with your hands. The more force you apply, the more it escapes. At this point, the journey ceases to be about learning and becomes about remembering. Remembering what it means to be in tune with something greater. Remembering that reality is not something external waiting to be molded, but a moving reflection, pulsating along with what you emit. A stillness settles in when this memory emerges. It's a pause between action and result, where the universe reorganizes itself before returning the next scene. But this pause is not simple. It brings discomfort. It removes the armor of haste, forces the body to slow down. The mind becomes agitated, trying to fill the void, but the field does not respond to agitation, it responds to surrender. And it is in this surrender that the invisible begins to work. The pieces that seemed scattered find their place. The answers that previously came in noise now arrive as clear, discrete, but precise intuitions. Imagine standing before a fogged-up window. You see shapes, but you can't distinguish what's on the other side. With each conscious breath, the fog dissipates a little more. And when the glass finally clears, you realize that what you saw outside was always inside. The reflection and the world were just two sides of the same field vibrating in unison. Still, not everything is light. Clarity also brings the weight of responsibility. You realize that every distraction, every resentment, every unconscious thought has creative power. That the same energy that attracts beauty can, if misdirected, generate chaos. And this realization doesn't come to punish, it comes to mature. Because understanding power is different from knowing how to use it. There comes a point where learning transforms into reverence. You no longer try to control the flow, you simply accompany it, with the respect of someone who knows they are dealing with something sacred. Light and shadow cease to be opposites, they become rhythms of the same movement. Progress begins to include retreat, trust, doubt. And within this fragile and perfect balance, you understand that raising your frequency is not about ascending, it's about attuning yourself. And when the air becomes light, when the body seems to float and the mind falls silent, there is a brief, almost imperceptible instant in which everything aligns. No sound, no response. Just pure presence, the prelude to something that is still being born, but that has already begun to transform you. There comes a moment, after observing the invisible for so long, when you realize, reality wasn't testing you, it was training you to see. Every silence, every delay, every apparent disconnection was an invitation to return to the center, to listen to the deeper rhythm that pulsates inside and out simultaneously. The field never left you adrift. It was simply waiting for you to be mature enough to recognize the language that had always been there, written between the lines of events. Everything that seemed chaotic begins to fall into place. What once hurt now reveals purpose. What was lost makes room for something more aligned. Energy reorganizes itself, not through effort, but through coherence. It's as if the universe finally breathes with you, and with each exhalation, a new version of you emerges. Imagine walking down a dark corridor and, with each conscious step, tiny lights turning on beneath your feet. There was no map, there never was. The walk itself was the map being drawn in real time. That's the nature of frequency. It doesn't show you the whole path, just the next step. And yet, that's all you need. There is power in understanding this. Because from here, you don't seek to control the field, but to converse with it. You breathe differently. You observe before reacting. You allow before forcing. And the reflection changes. Life begins to respond with more precision, as if the universe itself recognized your vibrational signature. It is at this point that the ordinary becomes sacred. A glass of water, a glance, a sigh. Everything gains density, meaning, coherence. You discover that raising your frequency isn't about climbing a ladder, it's about dissolving the walls. It's about remembering that you were never separate from the whole, only distracted from the harmony that was already rightfully yours. The field has always observed, but now it participates. What once seemed random transforms into a living, constant, sensitive dialogue. And perhaps that's why those who arrive here feel something different. It's not just understanding, it's resonance. It's as if something inside you answers, "I remember," because deep down, you always knew. You always felt it. You just needed a language that could translate what the silence had been saying for a long time. So, if this memory touched you deeply, leave a mark, a small, almost invisible, but genuine gesture. Write a word that summarizes the state you choose to maintain from now on. Gratitude, clarity, confidence. The name matters little. What matters is the sound that word makes when it springs from the heart. And when you leave here, take not only words with you, but the vibration they awakened. Breathe mindfully. Think tenderly. Act with intention. Because the field continues to observe you. And now, finally, it is ready to respond at the same frequency you chose to vibrate.